The role of industry is very important because they have a major impact on the environment in many aspects, many themes. So at one point in time, the Minister of the Environment, and we're talking here mid-80s in the Netherlands, actually sat down with the senior officials of about 6-7 largest companies. Well picked, they were the largest companies in the country, spread in terms of different types of industrial activity. And that meeting, or actually that set of meetings, was very important to get the whole thing going. The new minister asked them to come sit at a table and say, well, let's not discuss what we're going to change in your end-of-pipe strategy in the end of the next 3 years, but let's think about what needs to be changed in 20 years. Tell me about your investment cycles. Tell me about what you think is possible in the next 20 years if you allow you to do things in your own time, in your own operation. They could show leadership to the rest of the industry in the Netherlands. They could show leadership to their competitors abroad, and they had direct influence on what was going to be the environmental policy of the next 20 years. And even in hindsight, that has been true. The people that had been sitting on that table in the mid-80s, late 80s, actually changed the face of environmental policy making. And it was because they were allowed to speak freely and not being held accountable to anybody outside of that room. Everything that happened at that tables at that time was brought in the open later, and the minister took responsibility for what happened there, and he changed environmental policy making. Important feature of what happened at that table with the industry was that it was about the way environmental policy was going to be put in legislation, how it was going to be framed, not about the goals itself. The goals came from a scientific background. The goals came from a scientific report written by the National Institute on the Environment. They had done all the research, and they had said, well, if you really want to clean up the environment in all these different fields, in 20 years' time or 25 years' time, because we were looking at the generation of policy making, the goals would be minus a certain percentage of a certain pollutant. So minus 20%, minus 30% on CO2, minus 50 to 70% on NOx, and so on. Because these are huge numbers, but if you have 25 years, you look at it from a totally different angle than if you're just thinking about what's going to be done in the next 3 years and the end of the pipe. So if you can get a table with diversified industry interests at the highest level and appeal on these guys to sort of make the difference in the next 25 years and to see what is possible without jeopardizing their ability to compete either within or outside of the state, let alone in international context. Looking back over 20 years of environmental policy making in the Netherlands on the basis of that set of meetings, each and every of that companies did well for themselves. The big companies in oil, in appliances, in chemicals, in steel, they're all out there. Several of them are in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. So they have all done very well for themselves. From a professional point of view, I mean, these were very exciting years. We had all these kind of people who had totally new ideas about policy making. We finally came to understand that the real change was in the process.